Good morning. Today's topic is how to maintain a healthy relationship with your children, which are married, and your daughters or sons in law. And once they get into a relationship, we don't want to make a lot of mistakes that many parents make. So, to introduce the class, we must start with the Genesis, with Bereshit, in which it says, Al ken lo tov eyot ha'adam levado. It is not good for man to be by himself, which means the good of man cannot be revealed. Eselo ezer kenegdo. God says, I'm going to give him a counterpart. Now, it's very interesting, the word ezer kenegdo, counterpart. Ezer means a helper. Kenegdo means somebody which is against him. Our sages will ask, why does it say Ezer? On one hand, a helper. On the other hand, it says Kenegdo, someone which is against him. Is it like this or like that? It can be both. So it depends. Our sages say, if he is meritorious, then the wife is a support to the husband. If not, kenegdo, she goes against him. Let me explain. The word kenegdo is not really negdo in Hebrew, which means against. Kenegdo is as if she is against him. Meaning that in the relationship between husband and wife, the wife is going to be the one that is going to push the husband to get to his good. As we said before, lo tov ha'adam heyot levado. It is not good for man to be by himself. A man cannot really develop his potential, go to his maximum capacity, get out of his bad habits if he does not have someone that is going to actually challenge and mirror, being that magnifying mirror that's going to bring out and push him to go to the next level. For man, this can be a very humbling experience, to be with somebody that now is telling him what to do, how to do, and this doesn't please me, and that doesn't please me, and so on and so forth. The same way, man likes to have a certain dominion and control on what he does. A man needs to feel manly, right? Man was created from the earth, right? So man has subconsciously this lack of sense of self if he doesn't do something, if he doesn't accomplish something, then he is nothing. Man needs a certain level of recognition, a certain level of appreciation. He needs to be encouraged. He needs to be pushed to the next level. A woman, on the other hand, was not created from the earth. She was created from a woman. Right? So a woman inside of her already has a certain level of personality and belief in herself. A lot of things have changed in our generation. We'll explain that soon. But what's important is that once we understand the dynamics a little of husband and wife, we can understand that man and woman already being two genders, separate genders, with a separate modus operandi, right? A way to operate, which is completely a different system. One is Apple, the other one is Windows, right? And it's a whole process that happens of understanding each other's systems, and each one comes with their baggage, with their experience, with their traumas, etc., 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 etc. So already marriage is a very complicated, complex, difficult association. But once it works and the effort is put through, then something can flourish in an incredible way from the marriage, from the union. But that obviously comes with the right type of investment and direction. People without direction will go in all over the place. But that's not the topic of today. The topic of today is, this is an introduction to the next verse in Genesis, in Parashat Bereshit, that talks about the relationship between husband and wife, where over there it says, Lo tov heyot ha'adam levado e'aseh lo ezer kenegdo. I'm going to make a counterpart for man. And afterwards says, Al ken ya'azov ish et aviv ve'et imo ve'davak be'ishto ve'hayu lebasar echad. That's going to be really the topic of today. And therefore, man should abandon, I'm loosely translating, abandon his father and mother, attach himself to his wife, and become one flesh. So what does it mean that he has to abandon his father and mother? Now that seems to be a statement of the Torah which is very cruel. What do you mean you have to abandon your father and mother? Don't we have a mitzvah of kibud avaim? You have to respect your parents. Can you abandon your father and mother? And then for what? V'davak be'ishto, he is going to attach himself to his wife, ve'ayu lebasar echad, and become one flesh. What does that all mean? So we all know that as parents, we've invested every fiber of our being. We have had sleepless nights, not only when they were babies, but especially when they became teenagers. As the expression in Yiddish says, kleiner Kinder, kleine Zores, größer Kinder, größer Zores. Young kids cause aggravation, small aggravation. Big kids can cause big aggravation. And we don't sleep at night. And sometimes we argue as couples, as parents, because of the way our children behave and how we have to educate them. After I've invested so much in you, you're now suddenly found the love of your wife. You are the love of your wife, or you found the love of your life, right? And you are now, suddenly the Torah tells you, Ve'azav et aviv et imo. That's it. Give up. What do you mean, give up? So one of the commentaries, the Sforno says, imagine that you have the parents on the right, and you have the wife on the left. The husband is in the middle. The closer he gets to his wife, the further he gets away from his parents. It's a natural thing that needs to occur. You see, there are 3 steps, 3 times in the growing of a child that the child becomes independent. There is the time where he is a child. He is, under 5. And he does these temper tantrums and he wants to be independent. And at the end, he's not successful in being independent from his parents because he lives and he's nourished and he's educated by his parents. Then there's a time when a child becomes an adolescent. And now he's going to start with the new haircuts and the new clothing and all the craziness that happens in every adolescent's life. And even then, in most cases, the child has not yet become independent of his parents. Then we come to a time where the child is now going to get married. So the marriage part is the time where really he starts fully becoming independent. Well, they think they're independent. because now they're going to get married to a spouse and they'll realize how dependent they are on the spouse. So it's a whole new life. What happens at that stage is a very, very delicate, fragile moment for the relationships between parents and children. Let's say that your child is now has fallen in love. I always love this expression, fall in love. It doesn't say you get up in love, you fall. What does that mean exactly? But anyways, that's not for the subjects for today. So your child now has fallen in love with somebody. They're going to get married, just like any couple, just like you had it in your couple. There's going to be some type of friction. There's going to be moments of discovery. The child is 20, 23, 25. There's 25 years of history because they met for 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, a year. You think that that whole history has just, unfolded. And I know exactly everything you've been through. I understand you. I validate you. Absolutely not. The nature of man is that everyone is selfish. And being a selfish human being, I say selfish, there are degrees in selfishness, but everyone feels a little entitled and selfish and dependent on the parent, somewhere, somewhat. So now I'm putting my whole trust in a new person that just knows me so little. It's very tempting at this moment for us, the parents that know our children, to start, let's start giving pointers a little here to the spouse. Let us tell the child, what this spouse did and this spouse that said is really out of place. Just get, this is not right. You shouldn't let these things happen to you. Doing that is there's going to be a boomerang effect where everything that you say, listen to this, even if your child comes and says, okay, I'm having an issue in my relationship. I need to speak to you, mommy. I need to speak to you, daddy. Listen, ask questions. Don't give any solutions. Don't put your head where it's going to haunt you. Because you might think that you're going to give the best advice for your child, but the best advice for your child is to let your child make a mistake. Tell your child, go see somebody else. I'm too biased in this situation. I'll help you pay for a counselor, a qualified rabbi that knows about relationships in order to get that help. Yes, that is very encouraged. And that's very commendable of parents to do that. But the moment you start noticing things and you mention them, now when I say mention them, it's very simple. Imagine a woman that goes into her daughter-in-law's kitchen, right? And starts saying to the daughter-in-law how to cook. The feeling that gives? Oh, you should add a little more salt. Usually I put that spice in this, for example. Or it's going to be overcooked if you leave it there. Now you're going to say, but Rabbi, I am completely doing things out of the goodness of my heart. I really care for them. I really care for my child. I want to be able to tell my child what the right thing is. So what are you saying? I should just stay quiet? Exactly. The three monkeys. I see nothing, I hear nothing, and I say nothing. You want to talk with your spouse afterwards and talk about what this is not pleasing to you, and this is not pleasing to you. That's your business. You go to therapy. Let them handle what they need to handle. Look at your own relationships and the ups and downs you've had. There are things that you've tolerated and your spouse has tolerated with you. And thank God, hopefully you made it. You have to be able to let the child have that experience as well. Marriage is on one hand, an extraordinary experience, but it's a very traumatic experience. It's a traumatic experience in the sense, I wouldn't want anybody to cut out just that line and just put it on an Instagram, marriage is a traumatic experience and that's it. No, let's not take it out of context. Let's explain. It's a traumatic experience because it's the first time I'm going to have to really prove myself. I'm going to give you an example. When I was in yeshiva, we dormed. In a dormitory, you have 4 boys sleeping in the same room. One is hygiene is not the greatest. The others, respect of others at 10:30 at night when they're sleeping, opening the light or speaking loud is not the greatest. The other one, whatever. Each one has different things. So I thought when I was in yeshiva, I have such ahavat Yisrael. I'm such a loving, great guy. I really tapped myself on the back because I ignored, I swallowed the pill, and I just let everybody live their life, and I didn't say anything to anybody. I didn't critique or rebuke anybody. I got married, and after thinking I'm this big shot that really knows how to love another fellow, I can show love and validation, I realized I am absolutely at ground zero. Why? Because it is very, very easy to love and to respect somebody that you know that you're not going to see in a year from now. After that, you're done. But marriage is another experience. You wake up with that person and you come back home to that person. Therefore, the reality of what that person sees in you that needs to be fixed is a reality that is being mirrored, either subconsciously or consciously expressed or not expressed in your mind. You know that you're going to have to face yourself and face these things that you need to fix. And even if the other person is not thinking like you, you're really going to have to adapt yourself. There's no running away. Now, of course, personal growth only happens in an environment where there's constant work. And as I said, and I'll repeat many, many times, the best seminar, the best coaching seminar you could ever have for personal refinement and elevating and developing your potential is not Tony Robbins, and it's not whatever other coach. It's getting married. Getting married will put you facing you. You will see the things that you need to fix and refine yourself. And the other spouse is going to see that as well. And together you will grow and build it up. And actually, just like when you take 2 pieces of metal and you rub them together, it's that heat that's caused by the friction that actually causes them to be welded together. That's what makes us solid couples. Investment. Now, so imagine you're basically in an operation room, in an operating room for the first years of marriage anyways. And sometimes throughout the marriage, there are mini operations which are happening in self-discovery, in personal growth. Do you imagine if another surgeon comes and says, could you please not cut this vein over there? And no, please don't do this. Or do that. It's impossible. I'm already having the challenges in doing what I need to do. Give me support. Don't give me advice. Don't give me direction, except just support. When I mean support versus advice and direction, support means you can do it. Marriage takes work. We're here to help you. We believe you can make this work. But yes, but my husband, this and that. Maybe they have, they have something that they're going through, and you shouldn't take it personally. Definitely send them to get help from someone else, even if they come to ask for help. Don't volunteer too much. Now, I know this is very difficult. Very, very, very difficult. But the child will not be able to grow truthfully in his relationship if he has his parents and the parents on both sides being mixed into things. And that's I want to tell you how a lot of couples, believe it or not, in certain communities, a lot of couples get divorced because of the involvement of the in-laws. And when a parent is not able to give up the fact that, it's my child and I'm holding on to my child and this is my child, I've changed your diapers. What is this person coming to your life and telling you what to do and how to do? Well, your time is up, guys. You've done what you have to do. Your role is not to live through your child. Live your relationship. Let them live their relationship. Make your mistakes. Let them make their mistakes. Of course, I'm not talking about extreme cases where there's substance abuse, physical abuse, and emotional abuse, and anger management issues. In that case, you might have to get involved a little more, but even there, get somebody else involved. Don't put your head there, because at the end of the day, what will happen is that they'll make up and you'll be out of the picture. And I want to tell you, being out of the picture is a very, very painful type of experience for everyone. Many times, because a child wants to please a parent, they will find themselves between a rock and a hard place. They'll find themselves in a perfect sandwich, trying to please the parents, trying to please the spouse. And that becomes an impossible situation that wastes years of what could have been a good relationship. And most arguments become arguments that and then most of the arguments become either about your parents or my parents. You don't want to do that to your child. There's three Jewish women. They were talking about the greatness of their children, their son. And one says to the other, my son, he is so incredible. He takes me out every week. He takes me out to the restaurant. Wow, beautiful. Says, my son, he is so incredible. Every Shabbat, every Friday, I get flowers for my son with a little note. Says, you don't understand. My son, he has such a relationship with me. He pays somebody every week to speak about me. He goes to the psychiatrist to be able to get off all of his traumas that he got from the Jewish guilt he got from his Jewish mother. I'm just, okay, guys, let's put this aside. We'll have to say some jokes about the men as well. Anyways, the bottom line is, let's understand a little more the situation of the child. How does that child know how to be in a relationship? How does that child know how to educate? Well, they went to a school called Daddy and Mommy and Daddy. They saw the way you operate, and that's what they want to replicate and do in their marriage. The problem is that there's two sets. There were two schools here. There's a school of the girl and her parents, and the school of the boy and his parents. And now the two schools are going to clash together. Two ways of operating, even though they love each other and everything is fine. There are ways of operating that and it's going to be difficult for each one to understand what is the code that I lived with that makes me react in this way. I'm going to give you a very simple example. In what's called imagotherapy, one of my teachers, Rabbi Dr. Shmuel Stauber, of blessed memory, I'll dedicate this class to his memory, taught us something very interesting. He says, imagine for a second that you didn't see a friend. I didn't see my friend Joe for 30 years. I was in school with Joe. And I see Joe and I hit him on the shoulder. And I say, Joe, wow, it's been such a long time. And obviously my expression of hitting him on the shoulder, giving him a tap on the shoulder between men is an expression of love and happiness to see you. His reaction is a completely different reaction. He screams and says, ah! I said, Joe, what did I do? I'm sorry. Was it that strong? I didn't hit you that strong. But Joe will say to me, I'm sorry. You see, what happened is when I was 12, I had a ski accident. I ran into a tree and I broke my shoulder. So I have like a type of sensitivity and trauma when somebody touches my shoulder. I'm sorry. I didn't know. Imagine the scenario of Joe having the same accident when he is 8 years old. Him forgetting that he had that accident. And me coming and giving him that tap after 30 years. I didn't see you, Joe. And he screams. And he says, are you mad? Did you see how you hit me? He says, what are you talking about? And suddenly, out of this incurs this explosion. This was supposed to be a uniting moment. And this became actually a volcano. You hit me, you hurt me. No, I didn't. Who is right in this situation? They're both right. Most arguments and a lot of arguments have to do with what we saw as children and the way we perceive the solution is when we have arguments and when we have issues, how to deal with them. As children, we are what we call interjects. What's an interject? An interject is basically a sponge. He is a sponge that has eyes, ears, and is very sensitive. And as a child, he sees everything. Daddy screamed. Oh. At this moment, what did mommy do? She rolled her eyes or turned away, right? Daddy sighed. Oh. And mommy just slammed the door. All this information has been recorded. Now, mind you, right? Thank God I'll be hopefully very soon celebrating 29 years of marriage with my extraordinary wife. And what it is 29 years later and what it is in the formative years of the child, the experience we have now, we did not have then. And therefore, the mistakes we make, we transfer to our children. Do you understand? So what happens is after that, that's the education we gave them, not necessarily the best. We're doing our best at the time of our, how do you call it? We do our best at the time of the knowledge that we have with the experience that we have. We can't do more than that. And we cannot blame our parents for being whatever and doing whatever they were doing at the best that they could do with their knowledge. Let's face it. You can't blame your parents. And you do with whatever you can do. But the problem is you have different scars and different things in your computer that you understand, you understand things in a certain way, and you are sensitive to certain things. Now, what's incredible in marriage, as we all know, is that in general, you get married to the person that's going to touch your nerves and pick and press your buttons and get in the most sensitive part of yourself. You can say something to somebody else, that other person will respond in a certain way, and it doesn't affect you. It's okay. It's all good. Your wife or your husband will say that. It's the end of the world. What's happening over here? What is happening? Here, as we said before, we're in the operation. Things are working, things are cooking, things are happening right now at this moment. And it's happening at a very deep, profound level, and it's creating a unity. It's like having a child. It's interesting. Let's go back to our pasuk. Man should abandon, should let go of his parents, his father and mother. And he will attach himself to his wife. They will become one flesh. Rashi explained, they'll become one flesh. It's not the act of man and a woman being intimate together, but rather they'll become one flesh. It's having children together. It's the first time that there's going to be a piece of him and a piece of her that is in one being, inseparable from one and the other. You know, before children, we can separate assets, separate things. But once you have children, the child is both you and him. The marriage itself is a conception. It's like a rebirth. Actually, it's interesting because being that marriage is, you're actually getting married to, you are getting half of your soul, right? You are meeting, you are actually reconnecting to your soul, right? There's a process of reconnection. You were half a person before you got married. They say before you're married, you're not complete. Once you're married, you're finished. No, just joking. Anyways, the bottom line is, imagine a person that is born with one arm and one leg. And all their life, with that handicap, they were able to live, to eat, to drink, to and so on. And suddenly now, they just got married, they just found a leg and an arm. There's going to be a conflict. The arm that's used to doing certain things with the body is now limited in so many ways. Till you find that balance, it's going to take a lot of therapy, a lot of physical therapy, a lot of, adapting yourself. And finally, when you're able to find yourself, then, if you run by yourself, if you're by yourself, you can run very fast. But if you walk together, you can go very far. And then you understand that in that process, we cannot have anybody get really involved in the situation. Get other people involved. Don't speak about your daughter-in-law, son-in-law. Let your children be. Tell them to seek help. Get out of the picture. If you don't like something, don't take offense. Don't start playing the kavod game, right? There's this book, Kavod. Oh, I felt disrespected by my daughter or son-in-law because they turned their eyes. Well, you know what? Maybe they're pregnant and they didn't tell you yet. And, they're going through something. Oh, I wasn't invited at my children's dinner, but I'm in town. How come? Well, maybe she has to go to the mikveh that night and it's their night together. Let them be. Let them grow. Let them evolve together. It's no longer about you, the parent. It's about them. You want to help the child. Get out of the picture emotionally as well. Disconnect yourself. Let them grow. Let them be. And then you will have such a healthy relationship with them. You want? Pray for them. Give tzedakah for them. but don't do things that will put either of the children in a situation where they'll feel such an allegiance to their parents that they'll, look at their spouse in a different way. No, let them bond. They chose their spouse. You chose your spouse. Let them choose their spouse. Let them live with it. And if you need advice, call the rabbi, call a therapist, call a counselor, marriage counselor. Tell them what's going on. Open your heart to them. And they'll guide you on how you have to behave. Anyway, so the bottom line is let live. Live and let live. And when we let our children live and grow, then afterwards the relationship is much, much, much better. Sometimes you have a child, like something happens in the family. One of the children is now involved with a spouse, and we feel that they're separating themselves from the family. Of course, they're not getting to know somebody else, and they're busy with that. Before they weren't busy, and the whole thing was family. It's absolutely normal and natural that this process happens. Let it happen. Let it happen. And once you let things happen, afterwards, the children that seem to be distant from you for a certain period of time, that's their personal growth, they'll come back to you. Instead of you trying to impose your relationship, and we say in Spanish, like cariño. No. I remember one day, one of my children, I'm very lovey-dovey like this with our children. So one of my children, he turned 14, and I gave him a big hug. Says, Daddy, please. I was very offended. But then he told me, have a relationship with me by speaking to me, by sharing with me, by treating me like an adult, not a baby anymore. Okay. But afterwards, he grew a little more. And then because I gave him the space, afterwards, he wanted more of me. You want your children to have more of you? Give them the space. They're allowed to have the space.